Do you know the difference between a good idea and a good idea you should execute? You are so good at so many different things. When you have a good idea to do something, it can become a distraction. But you may have things that contribute to your ultimate success, but it may be four steps down the road. That doesn't mean it's not useful. That just means it's not useful right now. Yo, what's happening? What up, though? It's your homie CL Palmer, aka CZ Pod Gang, aka the Bottleneck Bully, and today we are going to talk about the difference between a good idea and a good idea you should execute. I think it's a very important thing, and I got a couple tools that help me decide which things to do and which ones to put on ice and which things to let go. But before we get into that, I just want to give a shout out to you for showing up, giving this podcast a chance, and you coming into this episode looking to get some value so you can improve something about your situation. And I want to make sure that I always shout you out for that because that means you are looking to grow. And this podcast is for people who are on a mission to grow. It's not a podcast just for you to be entertained or get some motivation. This podcast is for people who are looking to take what they do and take it to the next level. If that's not you, then this podcast might not be for you. All right. So we're not going to hold it up anymore. Let's ask that question. Do you know the difference between a good idea and a good idea you should execute? There's a little bit of a difference. So let me break it down. If you are a multi passionate, like myself, multi hyphenate, creative type who's pretty good at a lot of things, I do some music, I make podcasts, I write, do a little bit of coding on the tech side of things. And what happens is when you are so good at so many different things, when you have a good idea to do something, it can become a distraction because you have things that are going to help you take the steps necessary for you to achieve your ultimate success. But then there are some things that may just serve your ego. You may have things that contribute to your ultimate success, but it may be four steps down the road. That doesn't mean it's not useful. That just means it's not useful right now. And that's something that we have to have more awareness about every single day. Because if you're the type of person that comes up with genius level ideas on a regular basis, it becomes a burden because you can't execute as fast as you come up with the ideas. So, what do? Do you just write them down and hopefully come back to them at a different time? Do you just completely forget the ideas, even if they may be a little relevant? I'm going to tell you what you should do. You need to take your ideas and put them through a filter. I have a tool that I use called the vision filter. It's two different versions of it. One is what I call the four question alignment test, and the other is for ideas that I want to keep track of for later on. I only use the big version when it's a hard decision to make. But if I just need to check real quick, okay, is this something I need to really do right now? I will perform the four question alignment quiz. If it's something that I just come up with on the spot and I feel like it may help, I will do the four question alignment test and see if it passes. If it's a pass, then I figure out how to get that done sooner rather than later. Sometimes it comes back as a thing that needs to wait, and I could just put it off for a little bit. But some things are truly out of alignment with who we are. And even though we have some of those ideas, we dabble in a few things that may serve us in one version of ourselves, but doesn't actually serve the higher version of us. That's when we start to get off track. So, if you want to break it down from a spiritual standpoint, it's like this: there are things that you have to let go so you can make room for more blessings, but you are also letting things go because they are out of alignment and do not serve your higher purpose. So, you got two things going on. You let something go so you can have room for more blessings and things to come in. And then you have things that you need to let go because they are not in alignment with where you are going to be. Because sometimes things are in alignment with where you are right now, but they're not in alignment with where you're going. And that's one of the biggest traps for people who are looking to make it happen on a day to day. You got to get through today. You got to get through next week and making those decisions. And when you are making moves that serve right now, later on today, later on this week, but they don't serve who you are going to be next year, you are doing things that are slowing up your progress on your journey. Because sometimes bad ideas come dressed up as good ideas because they serve right now. So let me jump back to the vision filter because I think this is worth talking about. I have this 4 question quiz that I give myself anytime an opportunity, an idea, or I have a decision that I need to make for my life in general. But it mostly applies to when I want to take on a project or do something that's going to take up my time or my creative energy for that matter. So the first question is, would I be doing this if it didn't make me money? Because remember, most of the things that you should be doing in life should be adding to the joy in your life. If you are not adding joy to your life and you are taking on projects that just feel like work, the question is why? Because it's optional. Everything is optional. You should not be doing work that doesn't make you feel great. The second question is, does it serve your long term goals? Like we said earlier, we're making decisions for the person who we will be a year from now and not just right now. So that's an important check that we always need to have when we have a certain vision for our life. Hence the name vision filter. The capacity check. Do you have the bandwidth, the time, the energy for this project to execute this idea right now? You may be playing yourself because you don't have the requisite time needed to be effective with a project. And a lot of times we just want to do stuff because it sound good, but we got to be real with our situation. Me, I got 6 kids. There's a lot of things I'm just not going to have time to do. I spend a lot of time with them on the weekends, and I'm not going to be doing a whole lot besides hanging with them some days. And then last but not least, the ROI check. What is the thing that you will gain from doing this idea? This is the ego check. Are you upskilling? Are you being paid eventually? Are you feeling great about this thing? Everything doesn't have to be about money. Sometimes you could do it because you love it. And having things to do that you love is more important than just doing things all the time for money. Now, I have the 4 question vision filter on my website for anybody to use. I will leave a link in the description if you want to use it. It's a pretty cool tool that I will pull up at the drop of a dime to check myself. Now, one of those questions inside of the vision filter was capacity. And I want to really expand on capacity in a few different ways because you need time, you need energy. And sometimes you will find yourself in a situation where you have an idea that you need to execute, but you may not have everything required to complete the task. So you have a few options. You can upskill and learn how to do the thing, or you could pay someone else to do it. Now, if you bootstrapping, the first instinct is to always upskill and learn how to do it yourself. But what if that's not the thing that you need to be doing right now? What if that's something that you have no business doing? Sure, you could know about it, you could know the ins and outs, but is that something that you truly need to be executing with your own 2 hands? Somebody once told me that delegation is one of the most valuable skills that you could possibly have. Do you know how to point fingers, or more importantly, do you know how to point an idea in the right direction to the right person, to the right system? So when I hit these type of crossroads, I have what I call a KBAP, K-A-E, knowledge, ability, and energy. Knowledge is knowing what to do. You have the answer to how to put something together. You have a great idea and you know everything that you may possibly need to execute that idea in a feasible way. Then you have ability, which is close to knowledge, but more importantly, do you have the skills? Do you have the technical know how to execute this idea? And then there's the E, energy. Do you have enough energy, enough time, resources to execute this yourself? So it forms a little triangle. And depending on where you are at on that triangle, determines what it is that you should be doing. The thing that you are solving for is competency. Are you competent in a lot of different areas? And as a multi hyphenate creative that knows how to do everything, I can shoot the video, edit the video, write the description, publish it, and promote it. I can order a t-shirt, get the transfers, and print my own t-shirts. I can order all the ingredients and take time to cook for 175 people because everybody needs to get served at my upcoming event. Now I know some of you is like, you out your rabbit ass mind. Ain't no way I'm doing all that cooking. The point that I'm making is when you are competent in a lot of different areas, sometimes we overestimate our ability to execute on a given idea. The competent trap is something that people who know what to do and even have the ability will fall into the most. But if they don't have the time or energy to execute it the right way, a lot of times what you do is end up just spinning your wheels. Now, sometimes you have the ability and you have the energy, but you don't quite know how to pull it all together to make it happen. You like, I got all the puzzle pieces, but I can't seem to make them fit. That's when you lack in the knowledge. Now, when you have the knowledge and the energy, that's when being competent is the most dangerous because you know what to do. You're motivated and have the energy to execute the idea, but you don't have the ability to do it the right way or at all. And by far, that is the number one thing that gets people in trouble because we smart. We know how to do a lot of things. We figured out one thing, we could figure this out. Oh, I done did that before. I could do that. Man, that just looked like a bigger version of this. There are so many situations where we will pull ourselves over our head because we feel like we need to bootstrap it all the way to the end. We want to save the money. We want to handle it ourselves. We want to put our fingerprints all over the project. But what if that doesn't serve your purpose and the things that you are most strong at? Think about it. Your strength may have nothing to do with having that ability. Yes, you have the energy, but maybe you should be applying that energy to your strength and not learning a new ability. That's when it may be time to hire out. When you have all three and something falls right into that triangle, you know this is something that you should be doing. I have the time, the energy, the knowledge, and ability. I don't need anybody else. But even then, is it serving your long term purpose? This is where the vision filter and the K map cross paths. Because if it qualifies inside the K map, you run it back through the vision filter to see if that's something you should be doing right now. Because you should only be spending your time on the most important things that will help you get to your goals. I know you're great at everything you know how to do. You are an amazing person who has all these different talents, has a lot of knowledge, very passionate, but not everything needs to be done. You may be blocking a blessing because you're so busy trying to execute different ideas across the board. There may have been one right in front of you. We're not talking about just being niche, but are we going a mile wide and an inch deep or an inch wide and a mile deep? Because if you don't dig enough in one particular area, you may not find what you're looking for. So that does it for this episode of the Align Creative Podcast. I hope you got something out of this episode. Now, I also have a quiz for the K map as well. I will put the link in the show notes. I do need to make sure that it's going to work correctly because I like to do stuff that's a little bit cooler than the average. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe, get them notifications, rate and review if you're listening to this on the podcast. Share this with somebody that you think needs a little bit of guidance when it comes to making decisions. Maybe you know a bunch of multi hyphenates that have trouble executing their most important ideas. Please send this to them. Okay? I'm CL Palmer, aka CZ Pod Gang on most platforms, at CZ.Fourway on TikTok. You can get at the show at The Aligned Creative 44 everywhere across the internet. And as always, stay aligned and stay blessed. Peace.